Ready for part 2 with Keith Weiland? Whoa there. Settle down, kiddies. In an effort to earn your vote for Buchanan County Supervisor, Keith shares more about who he is, where he stands, and what he has experienced. And boy, he has experienced a lot. You want to hear about living in Uvalde, Texas? How about experiencing the effects of the border crisis firsthand? Well, Keith is going to let us in on what exactly his family experienced. Would you believe that as a guy who used to work for the DOT, Keith's view on eminent domain actually changed? And what is up with the championship team of basketball-playing monks that he met at the airport? That's pretty weird. Keith may be multilingual, but he knows the 9 most dangerous words in the English language. I'm with the government, and I'm here to help. Wait a minute, I've heard Bubba say that. Who did he steal that from? Oh yeah, they just released a movie about Ronald Reagan, that's the guy. Here's your host, Bubba Seaman!
Thank you. What is up, everybody? We are back. This is going to be part 2 with Keith Weiland. This guy's running for Buchanan County Supervisor, and he said, hey, I'll come on the podcast. Sure, I didn't scare him off. So we're back with him for part 2. If you didn't hear his part 1, go back and listen to part 1. Part 2 is going to be fun. It's going to be a little lighter. Until the end, we kind of talk about some more serious stuff. But in his part 1, you really find out who Keith Weiland is. And I kept joking about he's just like that guy. He's like Iowa's version of that most interesting man in the world commercial from Dos Equis. So if you want to go back and find out, what was it like growing up at the sawmill over there in Buchanan County? What was it like going to school when you had a decent job at the DOT? What got him into the oil and gas field? That's all any of us are really concerned about is the price of oil and gas right now, aren't we? Well, this guy, this is his world. He's been all over the world doing this sort of thing. You want to hear his opinion on the carbon capture pipeline? Guess what? That's where we ended the episode. That's really good stuff because that affects us right now. And that's what I'm telling everybody. Start thinking. Start paying attention. Start asking questions. Ask yourself, what is up with this? What is up with that? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? Okay? Those are important things to do. You're in a country where by you asking questions and thinking critically, you can actually make an impact. You can maybe protect yourself, your family, make good decisions, make informed decisions. My goodness, we need more of that. But that's all in part 1. Go listen to that. Check that out. Now for part 2, before we get into it, you guys know what I'm going to say. Wherever you're listening, Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, Rumble, I don't care where it is, hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Okay, we want to keep growing this thing, reaching more people. Then once you're done with that, check us out on social media, Facebook and Instagram. Keith's all over Facebook. This guy wants to connect with you, so look him up too, especially if you're in Buchanan County area and you're a registered voter. That would be great. So then once you've done all that stuff, share it with everybody you know. We're trying to reach people here. You got to share it for us to do that. So I appreciate all the support, man. I get all kinds of nice positive things from people coming in all the time. It's great. Sometimes it's just a little comment on social media. Sometimes it's, personal face-to-face interaction where somebody says, I appreciate what you're doing, the encouragement, or I just like the podcast. It's entertaining. And that's good too. But I'm trying to make it more meaningful than just entertainment. But that is kind of where it all started was I see some of the crap that makes it on reality TV. Why? Because we want to know what it looks like inside of a dysfunctional family? Well, why are those the most popular shows? Why do we want to know about those people? Well, I'm going to have on real people discussing real life, the ups and downs with real people. That's it. And that's all. I've stuck to that. And that's why we're back with Keith Weiland for part 2. What is up, Keith?
What's up, man? Hey, Bubba, I do have to say, I really do appreciate what you're doing here because you don't really see a lot of media. You don't really see a lot of investigative reports going on anymore. So, no. I mean, it's amazing to see what you're doing here, and I really do appreciate it.
Thanks, man. I had former KWWL news anchor Tara Thomas Getman. I had her on like episode 16, and she talked about when CNN launched, when she was young, she knew that's what I wanted to do. And so she started that path. She went towards that.
There you go.
And by the time she got out of it, she said journalism is dead.
Yeah,
like you're told what to promote, and she told this one specific story about between the 6 o'clock news and the 10 o'clock news. She would usually go to dinner. Well, some friends invited her to a church in Cedar Falls where Tim Tebow's mom was speaking.
Sure.
And it was a pro-life message.
Okay.
And we had the flip phones, but the early flip phones still, not the early ones, but the later flip phones had cameras on them, and you could take really crappy pictures.
Oh, they were terrible. I loved them.
And she come back to the producer for the 10 o'clock news and said, hey, let's throw this in, whether it's a lead in to the sports time or whatever. We had Tim Tebow's mom like sold out a church.
Seriously?
That was awesome. They were standing room only. And the producer said, no, we're not doing it. We're not doing it. But she said, I got the power of the mic. So when she got on there and she was yelling at her in their ear and all that stuff, saying, cut, we don't got time. We don't got photos, cut. No. And she told Rick Coleman and Ron Steele, she just said, hey guys, just tell you, Tim Tebow's mom is in town, and she spoke a real powerful, but yeah, she said journalism is dead. It's what they want you to say, and
it's a shame.
So this is where this is what it's
good for
come
you.
to.
Yeah, seriously.
You know what I mean?
I mean, this is exactly what we need.
But I also need people like you who you've got to talk to the experts. Especially you and me were talking off camera about the border, and you say you've lived in some areas in Texas and Kansas and Oklahoma and have been affected by the border. And at the beginning of that whole deal, I said, I don't want to hear from you in your necktie. I want to talk to the Border Patrol agent. Sure. I want to talk to the sheriff. Yeah. I want to talk to the landowners. I don't need you who live in Washington to go down there and tell me what's happening. I want to talk to Keith Weiland, who owns property down there. What are you experiencing? That's it. If you got experience, I want to talk to you. That's it. And you got a lot of experience. And I don't think we talked too much about the border stuff, but it's not just a made up issue. You experienced it firsthand. You saw what it was like, and man.
Yeah, it's something else. If you ever get a chance to go down, it's not for the faint of heart. You need to actually have training before you go down there.
Right.
I had the conversation last night with there was Thursday night cruisers, and a bunch of people get out and drive their cool cars, and you just go sit and eat at a restaurant and chit chat about this or whatever. Right. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And so one of the guys says, where are you moving from? I said, well, it's kind of a difficult. Yeah. Bubba, you're already laughing. My life is, as you said, an onion. But I said, well, yeah, pretty much south of Texas. That's the big reason that we moved back to Iowa.
Yeah.
And so I said, you have to understand when you're driving down the road, and there's a lot of dead zones down there. So you don't have any cell phone reception for, 30, 40 minutes. So you're still stinking driving across a couple counties. And so you're driving down the road and you see this little girl, maybe 3, maybe 5 years old, on the side of the road. And guess what? Everybody wants to stop.
Yep.
Your heart is just breaking, but you've had the training. And so you have to keep driving. And so when you do finally get cell phone reception, and believe me, you're checking your phone every 20 seconds trying to figure out if you got cell phone reception. Hey, 911, there's a 3, maybe 5-year-old girl. You can see my location. It's 20 minutes ago. Please go track down that kid.
Yeah.
They're like, you didn't stop, did you? Nope, I didn't. Okay, good job. Keep going. Because you don't know how many people are actually out there.
Right.
And it is heartbreaking to see what's happening down there. You would see 8 to 10 car chases a day. And you can't even believe what's happening down there right now.
It's unbelievable. It really is. It's unbelievable. But if we had proper journalism, we would all know, we'd all be fully aware of what's going on. That's what news is supposed to do. Bring us the news. What's going on. What's out of the norm is what Tara Thomas called it. That's newsworthy. I would say what's going on down there is out of the norm.
And as you would say, what is up?
Yeah, what is up with that? My goodness, man.
It's amazing to see what is actually happening in the world and what is not getting reported. And that's why I appreciate guys like you doing exactly this.
Yeah. We were also talking, man, we're getting sidetracked right away, but that's okay because I don't have a producer. I don't have to answer to anybody. I can do this. But we were talking off camera about not every issue is black and white.
No, sir.
And we were talking about a different, like there's a gray area. Some things are nuanced, things like, so when it comes to that border, I've always thought, and this is just me personally, but I kind of understand green cards. I kind of understand work visas. I understand the South is different. They have certain agricultural industries down there that in a properly functioning system, the people that want to come and work and do good and go back home or send their money back, like, there's a way to do immigration. There's
the right way. Absolutely. There is.
Why don't we stick to that? But the media will tell us, or politicians will tell us, you're either for it or you're against it.
Yeah,
well, then we see stuff like that, and it's like, oh, well, then I guess I'm against it. Well, that means you're for harming these families and not opportunity and all. And it's like, no. The ones that want to come and work and do those things, and they're safe, they're vetted, they're not.
Right.
We want the people that want to come and do the good things that we should be doing as Americans.
But the problem is that there's too many people that are cheating. And so they think that they're continuing to get by with cheating. Guess what? Those things catch up with you. Yeah. So you might as well cut it off sooner rather than later.
Well, I think, we're starting to see people are suffering consequences of certain policies. And, man, we could do a whole episode on that. That goes back to what we were talking about. Think critically. Know what's going on. Inform yourselves. Don't just listen to Channel 2, 7, 9, or even Fox or whatever. Find out what's going on.
For that segment, I'll volunteer my wife, though. She has umpteen more stories. That gal would catch. We figured out at one point that she was averaging about 4 people a week that she alone would capture as far as illegal aliens go.
Really?
That's not hunting in teams. That's not hunting with the neighbors. And believe me, you heard me say hunting. These people are crossing into, you think that it's, out in some remote area. No, it's just backyard of your town.
Yeah.
Walking across the soccer field, here they come. They're coming into your land.
Wow.
Watch out. You don't know what they're doing. They don't know if they're going to steal your property. You don't know if they're going to invade your house and eat all your food. And
how can you live in an environment like that?
That was just it.
That was the problem. Huh?
That was exactly it. So everybody was in fight or flight.
Wow.
So
see, and if that doesn't make some people at least a light bulb go off, like something's going on, was the fact that I only heard certain people talking about this for a certain period of time.
Right.
Up until recently, I'd say within the last 6 months, maybe a little bit more, did I start hearing other people actually admit, okay, there is a crisis going. Before that, they were...
Funny how that political shift happened.
That was so wrong. That was so... They said there's nothing going on. Yet I kept seeing images of people hoarding up under bridges and coming across in droves, but other people, no, nothing to see. And I said, you're lying. You're lying, and you're in the media. But now there's a problem. Now they'll admit it. And I was like, it's been here this whole time.
Wait till you see 40 people walk up to your house. You'll never forget it.
I couldn't imagine it. I couldn't imagine. I would probably have to do the same thing you would. You got to get, how do you protect your family? That's crazy stuff. That is crazy. There's a proper way to do immigration, and it's worked in this country before. So, my goodness. All right, we got to get to some fun stuff.
Yeah,
we can't just do all this. All right, we're gonna get to know Keith a little bit better on a fun level. So we got some segments, and for the audience, Keith was kind of like, he goes, "Hey, dealer's choice. You throw whatever you want out."
Yeah,
at
I'm not
me.
really a fun guy, so let's go with it.
Okay, so we're gonna do one of these new segments. Since when I record, I don't know when they're all gonna drop. I don't know if this is a new segment anymore, really, but I know it's one that I came up with in the last month or so. So this one's called This or That. So you're really gonna get to know Keith's taste here, because I'm gonna give him 2 choices, and he's gonna tell you which one. Coffee.
How interesting.
Coffee or tea?
Oh, it's got to be coffee.
Okay. Hot or iced?
Hot, always. I'm from Iowa, so it's got to be hot.
Okay. He's old school. I get those iced lattes from Quick Star, the Karuba Gold.
Every once in a while, I'll throw some ice in my leftover coffee and drink it in the afternoon, kind of conversation.
Yeah, there you go.
It's pretty few and far between.
Yeah. Movie or book?
I would have to say movie's been easier lately, but I enjoy books more.
Yeah. Travel or stay home?
Oh, Lord.
To the guy who's traveled the globe.
After having traveled so much, I'm excited to stay home and cook.
There you go.
Yeah.
What is up? All of us guys, all of us dads, husbands, we're all cooking these days.
You gotta eat, get it fat somehow.
I think it's the pellet grill is what did it.
Oh, that's a good
You know
point.
what I mean?
It really did standardize the method.
It did. Oh, now we're all expert smokers when the machine does all the work for us. Drive or fly?
Drive, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to see the stuff, don't you? Sweet or salty?
Yeah, I would have to say sweet.
Host or be a guest?
Neither.
Okay.
I'm more of an introvert.
Okay.
This has been the hardest part about my most recent life is to become an extrovert.
Oh, yeah.
And so joining the oil field and things like that, I really had to learn. My first guy who really kind of put it to me says, Keith, you have no personality. You have to develop personality.
Yep.
I looked at him. I said, you're right.
Yep.
And so learning to work in, like I said, 16 states and 7 countries, and then having traveled to a bunch of more countries and states and things like that after that.
You had to learn to talk to people.
Yeah, and now I'm like, oh, I get to learn something today.
Yeah.
So who can I talk to, and what do they have to offer?
See, there you go, folks. Listen to that.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. Yes, I'm same thing. I'm introvert, but I blame it on we moved a lot when I was a kid. There was like a 5-year stretch where we moved every summer. So when you start over in a big city,
sure,
you just learn, keep your head down, don't make eye contact, stuff like that. I moved to Dunkerton, Iowa, where everyone wants to talk to you. I'm like, oh, yeah, this is how it's done. Okay.
There's a 2-year stint that I worked in 6 countries, and for some point, I just stopped speaking. And people are like, hey, are you okay? And I'm like, dead silence, right?
Whoa.
And so I got used to traveling in so many countries that English was a second language, if not the third language. And so I would just try to listen and try to listen and try to listen. And then I realized all I was doing was listening.
Oh, my
gosh.
gosh.
Hey, boss, I got to do something different for a while. Maybe you got a project I can work on.
Wow.
Yeah. So
how many languages do you know well?
None.
None?
I mean, I could say a few phrases in a few different languages.
Give us one.
Like
any phrase in any other language. It could be, I want a cheeseburger and fries. I don't care. Give us something.
Budsy как doма is make yourself at home in Russian.
Oh, my goodness. He went Russian on us, folks.
Yeah.
Wow. That's impressive.
Voulez-vous du pain is...
That sounded like French.
It is. Yeah, it's kind of the thing that you hear on Air France and all those French airlines. Would you like some bread? Because that's the joke. They keep offering you bread. And that's really great bread, but dear Lord, for the love of God, I don't want so much bread.
How much carbs can you have? Wow. I like it. Yeah, that's... Okay, I don't even know where we left off at. Okay,
this or that.
Date night or double date. So this comes from like you and the missus alone go out to eat, or you guys got to invite another couple or someone else.
I'm kind of leaning towards after all of the isolation of Uvalde and the border stuff. I'm looking for the double dates. Yep.
Nice. Ranch or barbecue?
Ranch or barbecue? That's got to be ranch. I'm sorry, it is not ranch. I know I'm from Iowa and everything. It's got to be barbecue.
I was gonna say you're split here.
Yeah,
ranch is the Midwest thing. Barbecue.
I kind of swapped over to blue cheese after ranch.
Okay.
Yeah, so kind of went that weirdness.
Nice. Pickles or relish? That's not the best one, but
you know what? Pickles.
Okay.
Interesting.
Now this one, if you've traveled enough and you live down south, I know you can answer this one. Cracker Barrel or Waffle House?
A Waffle House every day.
The last guy said the same thing. He said Waffle House all the time. I was like, wow, man, I had my fair share of both. Okay, cake or pie?
Pie.
Chicken or beef?
Oh, I do love the beef.
Fast car or big truck?
Been there, did both, and now I'm back to fast car.
Okay. Weights or cardio, if you had to choose?
Oh, gee, that might be one of those if I could have done it all over again. But what I did was weights, and what I should have done was cardio.
Yeah. Gum or mints?
Mints.
Shower at night or in the morning?
Both. In the morning, for sure.
Wow. Okay, now this one is the most controversial one. This one has drawn lines in this house right here.
Oh, no, it's going to get real.
Over or under with the paper towels and the toilet paper?
Under every time.
Are you kidding me? You're an educated man.
Come on. It's inertia.
But we're human beings created in the image of God with functioning brains.
Oh, no, we're bringing God into this
You want to reach behind
or
below? If you drape it over the top, it's always, it's the least distance to you, and you can see it. If it's behind it.
If it's behind it, I'm pushing it from the top. Yeah, so
Oh,
I
my
leave
goodness.
my fingerprints on the top, and then I have to get rid of them because I'm so OCD on that conversation.
Oh, that's another good segment I should add right there. If anything, what are you OCD about? That's good. Oh, man, that is it. That is this or that. That's kind of a quick, fun one to do. I mean, I kind of just want to stop now that I know you're an under guy. Like,
Oh,
that's...
well, I can leave.
Keith, man.
Do you want me to pay for the water?
I'll send you a bill. Okay, shout outs. This is a new one too.
Oh, interesting.
You know, this is my positive spin on thing. I've noticed kind of a common theme, and even in your episode, there are moments where you highlight other people, whether they're people who, you know, teachers or you know, just different figures in your life at some point that, you know, did something for you that was memorable. So I was like, why not just make that its own segment? Shout outs. Is there any one person or people that you'd like to just give a shout out on air to reach my, you know, hundreds of listeners? Hopefully one day I can say thousands. Hundreds of listeners. Just let them know, hey, you appreciate them. Because I'm big on let people know when you notice that they got it right. You know what I mean? Let them know that. Too often we keep that stuff inside. So who do you want to give a shout out to?
Geez, where's the list begin and end? Mostly educators, I guess.
Okay.
My grandmother actually focused on us on religion as well as
Okay.
music and things like that, which led us into additional music with Shelley Reck, math with Lanny Bowles. He lives in Independence. He got me through, I don't know, a semester and a half of calculus without having to crack a book, which really set me in on economics and conversations like that.
Nice.
Shelley Johnson. Yes. She always knew when to chew us out.
Oh, you got to have somebody like that.
She knew when to bring us back. And I'd say Ron Beller was probably one of the best mentors I've had to say, you don't have to be all knowing and all you know, any sort of deity to be able to be right or,
Yeah.
you know, find the right answer. You don't have to know everything to get there. And that strength and humility that he pushed through really kind of taught me how to reform becoming a leader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good stuff. That is good stuff. Because, I don't know, maybe you noticed this like I did. If you grow up in a small town like that, you can start thinking a little
Right.
too highly of yourself. Yeah, I got all the answers. I got it all. You know, you want to be the top dog. No, you need somebody to teach you a little humility.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That goes a long way. And it's biblical, folks. I'm just saying, I keep coming back to that. You know, the Bible gives the best answers. Humility. It's a good thing. It actually warns about pride. So, all right. Now this is another new one. This is one I thought of just this week. So this is really new, and it's because it affected me personally. I thought, I got something I would love to do over. So this segment is just going to be if you could get a do-over, you know, like playing Little League or whatever, you hit a foul ball in the sand lot or whatever, you get a do-over. You get to redo something. You get another chance at something. Is there anything in your life that you would say, yeah, if I got a chance, I'd like to do this over again?
Oh, countless. I mean, there's just thousands of things. As you were talking about it, I was like, oh my gosh, how are you going to narrow this one down?
Yeah.
But then I realized that there's a path that God's got us on, and there's no choice in the matter. It doesn't really matter which direction we think that we needed to redo. I mean, the most obvious one that came to mind was we lost a lot of classmates in our class. We had a problem with suicide. We had a problem with bullying and things like that. We lost, I don't even know, it was well over 10% of our class. And it was terrible.
When you were younger or since?
Yeah, at EB.
Man.
Yeah, you never know, but even since high school and all that stuff, we've lost so many stinking classmates, and it's absolutely heartbreaking.
Oh, man.
And so you look at those obvious things in your life and say, oh my gosh, I miss those guys. They were, you know, we didn't always agree, and there's one actually we kind of had a love-hate relationship with, but you know, when it came to the lunch line, if there was 3 pieces of pizza, I would always make sure that he got a slice of pizza at lunch.
Yeah.
You know? So we were in a class that it was kind of comical because we couldn't really date with each other because we were all like siblings anyway. We're all so close. So
Yeah.
you know, so there are those moments where you're like, oh my gosh, I wish.
Yep.
But
Yep.
then you realize you didn't ever had a choice in the matter anyway. God's got that plan for you anyway. So
Yeah, I like how you explain that. Like, if you could go back and actually change it, you wouldn't be who you are today.
That's
so
unfortunately where I am. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great answer. For the first time ever doing this segment, understanding that sometimes the hard things we go through make us who we are. Yeah, that's real truth right there. That's what is up right there. Okay, let's do the getting to know you segment. Now, this is its own segment, but it's got a lot of little things in it. So we're just going to run down these, and we're going to get to know you a little bit better. Pet peeves, you got any?
Pet peeves.
And you can vent here, because pet peeves are annoying.
This is probably my biggest pet peeve, and probably the worst. I'm the worst offender. Being rude. I really distaste people being rude. I used to joke when I go to the oil field that there's two sides to Iowa nice. There's we'll bend over backwards for you. We'll change your tire, but God help you if you're rude. And so it really is, something I try to strive for myself. And then, it's something I really try to coax other individuals through to say, hey, maybe we could do this another way.
Sure.
Maybe there's another way that we could include other people's feelings and other people's observations, and generally inclusion.
Sure.
So let's have those conversations. Let's open these things up, and let's try to remember to drop the egos. Because, we all make mistakes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Once you make that mistake and you realize, oh yeah, I'd like a little bit of grace too, please. Well, then it's a little easier to give it. Yeah. Once you understand, you need to receive it sometimes.
Oh,
sure.
I've been there a couple times.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. If you can meet anyone in the world right now, who would it be?
I have absolutely no idea.
No, because you've met them all, because you've traveled the world.
For the love of Pete. No, that's the thing. I really have no idea. Maybe Da Vinci, something back in that time.
Yeah, you can go back in history.
Peter the Great was a heck of an engineer, architect, and all around decent. But he also had that how would you describe it? Kind of Rockefeller-ish type persona, where he's kind of a hard nosed, everything else. So there's, I would say, probably engineers or architects over the course of time to say, how in the world did you figure this out? And how in the world did you make this happen with your tools?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've thought about that kind of stuff. I'm not as deep a thinker when it comes to that stuff as you are, but there's times I sit around, I'm just I'm doing something in the yard, and I'm just putting a channel drain in my driveway because water was running back into my garage, and so I cut out the concrete and I lay the pipe, and then I got it angled towards the slope in the yard, and I'm like, how would they have dealt with, water issues back then with no tools, but just flat rocks? And I'm just, how do they figure these things out to develop the tools and equipment we use today to make the jobs easier?
The Romans bringing their aqueducts into Rome. I mean, it's just amazing, the projects that have happened over the world.
Right. Yeah, that's crazy. Okay. Of course, that's my phone ringing. That does show up on camera. My goodness.
Awesome.
We're a low budget operation.
I figured it'd be my phone going off. I appreciate that.
Okay. Favorite movies or books? What do you like to watch or read? Or genre? Maybe if you can't think of specifics, what do you like to read or watch?
It's kind of subjective. It's okay. Let's see.
Or you can just do favorites too. If you can say, oh yeah, this is hands down my couple favorite books, this is my favorite movie, whatever.
I've been kind of following the Jack Reacher stuff lately, even though it's very violent. I'm not really a fan of that, but the process for investigations and it really kind of fell into the military method, and it's been kind of interesting for me. The Jason Bourne series, Blood Letter, and I can't remember the other guy that had a pen name for those books. But yeah, I mean, I read a lot. I think not Lord of the Rings, but I did spend Christmas break one time reading those books.
Yeah.
The Song of Dragons, the Song of Songs. What were those? Tolkien.
Tolkien was Lord of the Rings.
Oh, Lord of the Rings. Excuse me.
If you like Tolkien, you'll like C.S. Lewis. They were kind of cut of the same cloth.
I can't remember who that is.
Remember, he did. You probably were like me. Did you have to read Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe growing up in school?
No, but I didn't see it until the movie. In fact, my siblings had to read it when they were younger. So.
Yeah, that's a classic. So if they're your younger siblings,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there you go. They're my we always had to read it.
Yep.
Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. Well, he did the whole Chronicles of Narnia series is like 7 or 8 books, all released out of order. They made 3 of them into movies. Books are excellent. You can totally see he's depicting other bigger scale things in fiction. Incredible. If you like Lord of the Rings, you'll love Chronicles of Narnia. Moves a lot faster than Lord of the Rings, and it's very powerful stuff. Good stuff.
The Witcher was interesting, but obviously all of those books are translated from Polish, so it was difficult to read in any language because it's so out of chronology.
Oh, okay.
I would say so. The history of the Russian Revolution was a very telling. It was very influential.
Okay.
Once you started learning how easily communism was overthrown, and those conversations, and it always ended up throughout. I can't think of the guy's name. It seems like it was Tolstoy. No,
he did War and Peace.
War and Peace. Okay, I can't think of the guy's name who wrote it right off. But anyway, so they killed him after he wrote this book about the history of the Russian revolutions. And towards the end of every revolution, at the end of every chapter, they said, okay, and the people paid the price. And so it was kind of a really eye-opening experience to be able to read that stuff and say, oh, wow, this was a really difficult book to read, but to say, the people,
like a warning.
The people always paid the price.
Yeah.
So, I've read a ton of books, and 1984 was interesting. I started reading that when I started learning how to create databases and maintain databases.
That's the George Orwell book.
Yeah,
right?
and in that book they would talk about, we expect so many bushels of corn to be produced this year, and certainly it was less, and so they would go back and change the newspaper articles and say, oh, we actually exceeded this many, and it wasn't actually less, it was more, and so they would change all of those articles. And so reading 1984 and actually writing databases and creating all of those analyses and things like that, it was quite a dichotomy there.
Wow. Yeah, a lot of people started talking about 1984 like, man, this guy's like foretelling the future. Like,
yeah, seriously.
Holy cow. I never read it, though. I haven't read it, so I know what it's all about. I just haven't read it.
Yeah, you probably got enough of the gist. You probably don't want to.
Yeah. Okay, let's do this one could be long-winded. I don't know. Dream job and worst job.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see. Worst job, dream job. I don't know. They're kind of one and the same. Sometimes you would get on, in the oil field, you would get on these dream jobs. I worked in Africa for 72 straight days, and we were waiting on this rig because it was brand new. It was out of Singapore. I can't remember the name of it right offhand, but this rig they floated in, and they expected to start drilling at some point, and they had all of these stinking issues. And then, oh, by the way, you have all these cultural issues as well.
Cultural issues?
Yeah, so it's the locals didn't necessarily agree with the expats from the United Kingdom or the United States that were trying to help them learn how to drill.
Okay.
And so that was part of the contract in this particular country to say, okay, well, 20-30% of your workforce has to be local.
Okay.
And so you have to teach these people. And, this is one of those countries where the dictator for life, and I'm using air quotes in a radio show, but this dictator for life had killed his uncle to become president.
Oh, boy.
And then he succeeded in killing off everyone intelligent enough to overthrow him. And so he literally moved down the IQ of his country so that he could rule this country. And so it was a very difficult conversation anyway, and then trying to teach these locals how to do all this stuff.
And you were working in that environment?
Not necessarily. I was actually at the Hilton for 72 days. So
wow.
Yeah, it was very strange. I mean, it was a beautiful place, and that it was this natural beauty. I mean, they would literally take the nuts of cocoa, and they would crack these nuts and then start mashing up the cocoa and give you chocolate, and you're just like, wow, this is amazing. I've never.
That's about as organic as it gets right there, man.
This could happen. But then you would drive, and because you would get bored, and this is kind of the dichotomy of having the best job and the worst job.
Okay.
You would we went up to this volcano. We would go hike this volcano, and so we we took, I think, like 5 or 6 beers is all we could find, and just kind of went that way. And we were going through these checkpoints, these military checkpoints, and it was not a very fun process in a third world country. Mm-hmm. And so there's all those conversations as well. But as we pass that checkpoint, we pass the Black Sands Beach, which is unfortunately very famous for the Black Sands prison, which there's 7 or so books written about this terrible place called the Black Sands prison. Anyway, so we're going past all of these things, and so you can hear where it's very strange in the interesting parts and the not so that's interesting and kind of scary too. So anyway, we go up to this butcher's market, and I'm like, why are we stopping here? My buddy says, hey, why don't you see if you can take a picture of that guy? I'm like, take a picture? What are you talking about? He says, well, that's a butcher's market right there. I'm like, oh, now I see what's happening. So I said, hey, is it okay if I take a picture? I'm using gestures, obviously, because I don't speak Spanish. This is not enough anyway to ask this guy for, excuse me, keep
that's
the
okay.
microphone. Not enough to actually ask this gentleman if I could take a picture of him at his butcher's market in Africa, because this is the one country in Africa that speaks Spanish as its primary language.
Yeah, that's weird.
Totally weird. And so he's smiling, and so he goes and grabs his meat, and there's probably 5 or 6 of these massive rats, and they're probably, I don't know, 9 to 14 inches long. And he's just this biggest grin, and he's got 5 or 6 rats up there, and he's, you could take a. He's giving me the thumbs up, and he's got this huge smile on his face. And that was kind of the point that I realized we're all humans. It doesn't matter what you have or what you don't have or whatever it is. This guy is a king in his community.
Yeah.
He's got the protein.
Huh.
So
that's getting outside the box.
Yeah,
that's opening your world up a little bit, because most people don't think like that. And our world is this big.
And so you try to show this picture to your friends and your family and say, this is this dude showing his rats to you, and you're like, why in the world would you show us this, Keith?
What's that mean to us? No,
but if you take a look at his smile, he was so proud because he was a pillar of his community.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's. You don't know what you don't know kind of thing. You can be, I've heard a lot of people who grow up in like poverty situations, or where they're not poverty, but really poor. We didn't know we were poor. We were happy.
Yeah.
We were happy. My neighbors were the same way. We didn't have shoes. We'd run out, we'd play, and that's it.
Really kind of changed my focus after that to say, okay, how much do I really need? What do I need in life?
Oh, that's good. It's good thinking. Okay. Let's do favorite restaurant or fast food. If you got a place that you and the wife really like, or if you're on the road, you got a favorite fast food joint?
Yeah, I do have a favorite restaurant. It's called Korea House. It's in Houston. So this, I'm just going to say it. So he's gay and he's Korean, and that's not really something that goes well together, but the food is fantastic. It was great service all the time. So I said, I want to be friends with this guy.
Sure.
And, so the joke was it was Keith's Korean boyfriend, this restaurant, because it really kind of spiraled and became a funny joke and everything else. And that, that's great and whatever. But, he really is a dear friend, and he has an amazing stinking restaurant. So if you ever go to Houston, Korea House. That's
Korea House in Houston. Yep. All right. Yeah, that's nothing like good Chinese food. All right. Let's see, what's the next one? Number one problem we face today, in your opinion, what do you think number one problem is?
Financial literacy.
Okay. We kind of hit on that a little bit in the first episode, where I lost my train of thought and I couldn't remember what it was. So I'm kind of hoping by saying it now it'd come right back to me, but it didn't.
Dang it.
Darn it. Yeah. We got to teach our kids how. Oh, was this it? So when we talk about personal finance, and I told you the story about, my daughter asked about interest rates or credit cards or something, and she said, my goodness, one conversation on the couch for an hour. She learned, did I just lose it again? No. I said, because I was kind of telling you, like, I don't want to hear from the neckties. I want to hear from people with experience. When it comes to finances, I've always been able to balance a checkbook. My wife and I are doing just fine, and we don't have super high paying jobs or a degree between the two of us.
That's the American
How
way.
are we we know how to handle money.
Right.
I don't want to hear from the government who doesn't know. You know what? I'm making that comparison. Don't tell me how to handle money. Don't tell me. I do way better than the federal government. I think Iowa does pretty good on a state level if what I hear is right, but the federal government I know doesn't do good. The average American, if you're not in debt, you're doing head over heels better than the United States government. The Fed. Oh gosh, they're coming after me now. Sorry. But yeah, I think that was the point I wanted to make right there. That was that little saying, like, I handle money better than you do. Don't lecture me about that.
I don't think people realize how much they have. And that when I first moved back to Iowa, 4 years ago or so, that's what I would tell people. They're like, "Oh, I can't do this because I don't have enough to do that."
Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, you really do have that much money.
Yeah, you can make it happen.
I mean, just look in your closet. You probably have 15 times more clothes in there than what you actually need.
Yeah.
So if you had taken those decisions and said, okay, well, let's do something different with it. You know what? Just put it in a stinking CD. Let's give it to the bank. Let them do some interest gaining for us.
Now you're speaking my wife's language,
right?
With the CDs.
I mean, there's so many other avenues that you could have gone.
Yep.
But instead, what we did was we followed that 80s, 90s mentalities and went to the shopping centers.
Instant gratification, man.
Oh,
We don't want to work for nothing. Remember layaway back in the day? Do you remember hearing about that? My mom had to do some layaway stuff.
Oh, we did, absolutely. Yeah.
And that was the credit card killed that. If you can walk in and get it,
right?
Why would you ever lay it away and work for it?
But people don't realize that they have more than they actually realize.
We could live with a lot less.
Yeah.
A lot less.
Plant a garden. I think I used to say, pay off your debts, create an emergency fund, and plant a garden.
Yeah.
I mean, those.
Oh, you'd be farther ahead than you realize if you could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not if you could, if you will do that, because you can do it.
It's a choice.
It is a choice.
It's a stinking hard choice, but something you can stick to.
Right. Man, and we're not charging for any of this content, folks. My goodness. I mean, I don't want donations. Buy a shirt, buy a hat, something. That would be great. But this is good stuff. Okay. Now, the flip side of that. You said number one problem we face today is financial literacy. Number one thing we got going for us. What makes you positive about the direction we're going?
We don't realize how many resources and how many availabilities that we have to these resources. It's phenomenal. When you start hearing conversations about, what was the Robin Hood back in the day where they said, okay, we're not going to allow you to hunt in the forest because, this is the king's forest or something to that effect.
Yeah.
When I start hearing about laws that are trying to be passed on those conversations, I'm like, wait a minute. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Why are we getting into these draconian conversations? And it literally is a draconian conversation.
Sure.
But we have accessibility to water. We have accessibility to great soil. We have accessibility. This climate is, I know people say it's stinking hot here, and it is, but it's not so bad, really.
Right.
We don't even realize how blessed we are.
Put it in perspective. Yeah.
So
yeah, we are blessed.
We really do have a lot of resources here that we don't take advantage of, and it's easy to do.
Yeah. Man, we're just knocking them out of the park here. That's good stuff. This is one that every spouse of every guest that's ever come on here wants me to leave in. One thing you love or appreciate about your spouse, and you got to narrow it down to one.
Yeah,
I mean,
she. Like it or not, me liking it or not, she always understands me.
Okay.
It's really kind of comical that I can say something and she'll be like, "Did you mean to say this?" I'm like, "Yeah, thanks for that."
Yeah.
It's kind of nice to be able to just turn off the filter and just let it all out.
Yeah. She knows you.
I did it the other night in front of some other people, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, did I say anything dumb instead of in front of other people?" But she was like, "No, here's what you said, and here's how you said it, and you said it the right way." And I'm like, "Okay, thank God, because I turned off my filter when I was talking to you."
There you go. I like it. How about this one? If you could delete one thing from the world, what would it be? If you could take away one thing and say, this doesn't exist anymore, what would it be?
I have no idea.
It could be, if you don't got anything, you don't got anything. But some guests go super light with it, like Brussels sprouts or spiders. Other people obviously go deeper and they say, hatred or, cancer or stuff like that. But Yeah, that's a good one to think about. You know what I mean? If you could get rid of one thing from the world, what would it be? That's a good one. How about this one?
Yeah, I might have to come back to that.
Have you ever changed your opinion on something? Now, this could be like,
oh yeah,
your taste changes over time. This could be your stance on an issue over time. Have you ever changed your opinion, done a 180 on anything?
Yep, 100%. So
okay.
I worked for the DOT, and they hired 50 of us all at once, and put us through some training programs and this and that. And I ended up on this Highway 20 project. We were working US 20 over by what do they call it, the 5 mile bridge or 1 mile bridge or whatever it is, over by Iowa Falls and Steamboat Rock and all that.
Okay.
And so we're out there staking right of way, and so we're pounding in stakes and all this good stuff. And of course, the farmer comes up, and this survey chief says, "All right, Keith, here's what's going to happen. This guy's going to come up, and he's going to start talking to you about eminent domain. You're not authorized to make any decisions or statements, anything of the sort, because that is not your role. You're out here to pound stakes, and that's your job."
Yep.
So okay, but do you mind if I listen to him and ask him some questions? Absolutely, that's the right thing to do.
Okay.
So I talked with this guy, and he says, "Okay, what are you guys up to? And, obviously you're the new guy. Do you mind if I said, "Yeah, I kind of warned. So I've been told that I can ask you questions, and I'm very genuinely curious about, what's going on
Sure.
and why you're out here." He says, "Well, think of it this way. So this land, Highway 20, is now going through my land, this interstate there, this highway. And so the issue is that I only bought as much land as what I thought I could afford, and it would give me enough profit rating to be able to get a life.
Okay.
And so this is what I need." And so what tends to happen is, if you take out 13%, 17% of my property, that's straight off the bottom. I'm never going to be able to achieve those profits and reach those baseline yields.
Yeah.
And so that really affects my bottom line, and not only affects my bottom line, but it affects my top line. So everything takes that slide to the south.
Yep.
He says that's why eminent domain is such an important conversation. You have to understand that if you're going to do this, you have to do this wisely.
Yeah.
And so he said, I don't, we can buy other properties, but then we have to drive, 12 miles to go
There's
farm
costs.
that property as well. So we're never going to be able to recoup all of those prices. So we have to be very extremely careful to make sure that we do use eminent domain correct.
Right.
And of course I thanked him. I said, this is obviously not a perspective I've ever heard. I appreciate you telling me this thing. I'm studying to be a civil engineer. I really do.
How old were you at that point?
Well, I think I was like 20, 22, 23, somewhere in there.
And you had never thought of it from the landowner's perspective?
Never even heard of the concept of eminent domain.
You were just working a job.
I was just building highways and building bridges.
Wow.
Didn't at all consider how it affected the greater masses. That was the class that we had later.
Let's do a little test. James, this is a high school sophomore. Do you understand what eminent domain is? Ever heard of it? So he's not 20s.
See, makes sense, right?
No? Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
So they haven't taught it yet in high school?
No.
I guess. That makes sense. Well, before you're 20, I will have explained to you what eminent domain is and... Oh man. Okay.
Yeah.
Good conversation, man. This is good stuff. Okay.
So yeah, I did obviously a complete 180.
You did a 180 on that.
Okay, it's not always 100% guaranteed all of the time.
Yeah.
There has to be some sort of criteria, some sort of what they call litmus test to say whether or not it does actually meet the standards. To say, is this necessary for the public use and convenience?
Right. Right.
Or is it not?
I get it. So is some of that's coming up with the pipeline thing argument, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Which we talked about at the end of episode 1. So if you didn't listen to that and you want to know a little bit more about carbon capture pipelines and Keith's take on that and his experience on that, go back, part 1. It's really good stuff. You want to hear from someone who has some knowledge on it rather than just a talking head on TV? There you go. Keith Weiland's your man. All right, let's move into the What Is Up segment. This is, one of the main reasons I started the podcast. There's basically 3 reasons, but this is one of the big ones is just, what is up with certain things. And sometimes these are lighter topics. Sometimes they're heavier. You said, let's talk about Keith's book chapter titles.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really know what that meant, so I had to ask you that today, obviously, when you got here. And you said, okay, it's basically like my book. If it's a book about me and my life, here's the chapter titles. I haven't wrote the book yet. I've lived the life for the most part. It's not finished, obviously, but here are some of the chapter titles that I was thinking of. And you showed me list after list of what these chapter titles might be. And I guess I would say eccentric is probably the best. So you can expound on this however you want. You can give us some of the titles. You can explain some of them. So they're obviously just chapters of your life.
Yeah.
And a headline title of what that poem.
Let's go with eccentric. That's okay. So
that's a good word.
Very particular story I could think of that you would say this is surreal. It just didn't happen. So I'm flying in actually from Africa and land in O'Hare. And so I've got this layover in O'Hare, and I'm, trying to eat and get on to the next plane and all that good stuff. And this guy kind of sits down next to me, and I think, it looks like a wig. What's up with this guy?
Oh, boy.
He's got the fake goatee. I thought it was fake goatee, and it was weird. He's got kind of a little long hair, and he's definitely balding and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, this looks like a stinking wig. What's up with this guy? So I don't think anything of it because I know, just in his body language and things like that, he's going to strike up a conversation.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. Just landed from another country. It's third world country. I've been there for a long stinking time. God only knows. This could be somebody coming to vet me. God only knows what's going on. All right, whatever it is, sit back and let it happen. So then I'm sitting there and I don't even remember what I was eating. And I'm sitting there watching these groups come through and things like this. And I'm kind of waiting for this guy to kind of roll in my eyes thinking, oh, okay, when's the conversation going to start? What's the conversation's going to start off with? What's going to happen here? So I'm looking around and I see this stinking trophy. And this trophy has to be like 4.5 foot tall.
Okay.
I'm like, what in the stinking world's going on with this trophy? And then I see, it's sat down and this monk comes over and picks it up. And I'm like, okay, that's unusual.
A monk.
Maybe he's just like keeping an eye on it or something. I'm looking all over for, some sort of basketball team or, maybe, I don't know. It's a cribbage team. I don't know
Okay.
who wins a 4.5 stinking foot tall trophy. So I'm looking all over and then there's another monk and then this monk's got a basketball. And I'm like, wait a minute.
No.
And so now I'm very curious. I'm looking right and left. And sure enough, this guy next to me starts striking up a conversation with this fake hair. And so I'm like, yeah, okay, great. We're going to start a conversation right in the middle of this.
I'm trying to figure out what's going on here, guy.
What in the world's going on here? And so this guy starts striking up a conversation. Hey, you do a lot of traveling? Yeah, here it comes. Yeah, I do a lot of traveling. Just got back in country. I've been gone, 62 days, whatever the heck it is.
Yeah.
And I was in this country, that country, and that country. I'm being openly honest with this individual because I've been vetted before. I know that this person is, describing that kind of body language.
Okay.
Like, dude, just ask the questions.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. I'm going to tell you the answers. It's something you'll kind of learn about me. And so, right or wrong, I'll tell you the truth. So yeah, that's a lot of traveling. Okay. I'm like, yeah, buddy, let me count the basketball players here.
Yeah.
And so, here's a third and here's a fourth monk. And I'm like,
one more and you got a team.
What in the world is going on? And, by this point, you find 4 monks, 3 basketballs, and 1 trophy. And you're like, okay, there's a team here. I don't know what the heck's going on.
No way.
And I'm like, what in the world is happening here? And these guys are laughing. They're obviously celebratory. They're, having a great time. And this guy next to me says, so what do you think? I did a lot of traveling. I worked in Iran. I was in Tehran during the Red Revolution or whatever the heck that was. I'm like, oh, we're gonna have that conversation. Here we go.
Wow.
Okay, that's very cool. And he says, yeah, so I was there. I protected those children of that ambassador or whoever the heck it was, whatever diplomat it was. And I'm putting this on you, buddy. You asked for eccentric. Here you go. Here's eccentric. So this guy's saying, I was part of the security detail, and we had to go through all of those riots and the revolution and everything else, and there were people dying in the streets and death to America and things like that, and you really need to understand exactly what we went through to do all this stuff. And I'm like, cool, buddy, but I'm still looking at the basketball team. Let's get on with the conversation so I can help you with whatever it is you're trying to get out of me. And so this guy is, so what do you think that we should have done? And I'm like, Fifth basketball player. Got him.
Oh my gosh.
All right, buddy. So here's what I would have done. The entire issue that you've run into is hearts and minds. You guys destroyed our reputation. And in that process, we have destroyed our reputation in that country. And so when I have worked with the Iranians in Norway and Russians and I actually worked with a Khamenei from Libya in that same shift in Norway. And the whole point of the matter is that we need to be able to talk to with each other and be open and honest with each other. And yes, we're going to have competing issues, but we need to be able to reach each other's hearts and minds and to be able to understand with each other why we have the vested interests that we have. If we're honest and really forthright and wholehearted about whether or not we're in it for the betterment of mankind and all of this stuff, then those are the conversations we need to have. Even if they do come off kind of sideways, we need to be able to find a way to have those conversations and to break down those barriers and say, okay, this is where I'm coming from. Where are you coming from? We need to be able to meet each other with hearts and minds and understand that we are here for the common good. And so that's where I see that you guys failed. He's like, what do you mean we guys? All right, buddy. I see this so far. The most interesting part of this conversation is this Monk basketball team that's got this 4.5 foot tall trophy, and they got a bunch of basketballs. So I'm gonna stick with that conversation. I hope you have a great day.
Wow.
So yeah, it's weird how when you start to travel to different places and you get the attention of people, or you yourself have your attention on other things, you start to learn and start to understand and start to question things, and you find yourself in these weirdest situations to say, okay, what are we really talking about here?
Right. So what is that chapter title? Did you say that at the beginning?
Yeah, I probably did.
Because I read it.
Right, something about the trophies and the Monk basketball team.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so I have a bunch of stories like that
Holy
you just
cow.
can't believe that you walk into some situation and you can't make this stuff up.
Dude, and that's
I don't have the creativity to make this stuff up.
Right.
So.
But people will find that interesting.
Yeah.
People, if you do write that book, there's going to be people that buy it. It's going to that's my whole theory with this podcast. Everybody's interesting. You may be more so than some people, but everyone's got a story or an experience to share.
Trying to be a lot less interesting lately, but it doesn't seem to be working for me.
Well, you're running for office. You're in the public eye. Okay. Now that's crazy stuff, guys. And he had list upon list of these chapters, these chapter titles, and they get more eccentric than that, even if you believe me. So this guy's been around, seen a lot of stuff, done a lot of things. So let's get to the last one or two of the What Is Up segment. You said, hey, election 2024 and Marxist indoctrination. I'll just let you go. And this is, people understand you don't have to agree the same as me. You don't have to believe the same way as me. We used to be able to talk about our differences in politics or in education or whatever, and the world still went. My last guest sat right in that chair, and he said the world is actually way more center than TV or media will let us think. He thinks we really are, that because we still get up and go to work every day.
Oh, absolutely.
Even though there's people on the far left and far right. He says the majority of people are probably way more center than the louder voices are on the edges. So,
but I would say that's only true here in the Midwest.
Okay.
Where the heck was I most recently? It seems like I was in Kansas City, actually.
Okay.
So I did this big, long kayak race, and I didn't actually finish. The kayak race itself is 340 miles.
Holy cow.
Yeah, so that was my second attempt. The first time I did it, I finished it on the first attempt. This time I only made 195 miles. Long story, whatever. So I checked into this hotel, and there was this older couple ahead of me. I'm like, are you folks ahead of me? And they're like, no. And so I was like, okay. So I walked up to the other person and kind of checked in and did all my process. And this guy was talking to the gal that was supposedly attending him, and she wasn't. She was, I don't know if she was goofing around on the computer. It was plainly obvious she was not working.
Okay.
And so the guy told her, he says, hey, you I want to tell you what your actions, what happened with your actions. And this is kind of leading into the 2024 election, believe it or not. That because you decided to goof off and we were waiting for you because we were under the impression that you were helping us, we missed all of our opportunities to check in. We've been waiting here for, 25 minutes trying to check in. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I feel terrible. These folks are in their 80s and I just jumped ahead of them in line. And so he's like, I want you to understand the consequences of your actions and how it affected us. Okay. And so he checks in, this and that. I run upstairs. I happen to run back downstairs, get trailers and vehicles in place and all that stuff. And I hear her speaking with her colleague. She says, well, I actually feel very bullied about what that guy said. And I feel like I just need to take a break. And I walked up and I'm like, I'm sorry. No, what that guy did was tell you the God's honest truth. And you decided that you were not going to take responsibility of your actions. And that's where you are. And that's why you continue to fall into this endless cycle, is because you're not taking responsibility for your actions. Here in the Midwest, we still have that sense of responsibility, even though, people goof off here and there. It's bound to happen. It's human nature. Yeah. The point of the matter is that everywhere else has become compliant and become complicit in the process as well. Yeah. And so what you tend to see is everybody says, okay, this is, somebody's doing this for the good of me. No, I'm sorry. This is why I moved back to the Midwest, because there is common sense in the Midwest. There you go. And I promise you it does not exist everywhere else. Okay. It really doesn't. And so what you tend to see is you tend to see all these Marxist processes start kicking into place where we know what's better for you. This is what's best for the culture. This is what's best for... You don't have to worry about it. We got you. Yeah, we're gonna do exactly what you think is right. Don't question it. Don't do your research. Just follow us, and stand on this particular set of footprints, and make sure you're not breathing on anybody. God forbid you breathe right now, because we don't want to start talking about carbon and how much carbon we're pushing into the atmosphere. And but I'm a carbon life. No, don't think about you being a carbon life form. You just need to understand what it is we're telling you. Yeah. Don't start thinking. Don't question us. Yeah. Let's just follow exactly what we're told. Yeah. My ex-wife, God bless her, she's a saint. Somebody's gonna make her a saint someday. She'd speak 5 languages. She'd volunteer at orphanages, women's shelters, third world countries. It didn't matter. So I told her, I'm like, what do you see is going on here? She's like, this is communism. This is exactly what I left. Yeah. People don't understand. And so she came home one night and she says, I have to tell you something. And I'm like, you got one of the best hearts in the world. That's, why I married you. And whatever it is, I'm not worried about it. She says, well, there was a line. I said, oh, okay. So you stood in it, because that's the communist thing. If you see a line, you don't necessarily know what it is, but you know that people want it, and so it must be valuable to you, and you must be able to resell it or something. There's something going on that everybody needs. I said, okay. So we got into the line. Where did it end up? She says, well, it ended up at the rifle counter at Walmart. I'm like, all right, okay, I hear you. So what'd you do when you got to the front line? Well, I figure we can do some deer hunting or something like that. Okay, I hear where your head's at. All right, so, I understand that this is kind of a PTSD moment for you, and kind of fell into these very obvious communist cycles. Yep. So what'd you end up getting? What's your plan? Did you get some rounds? Things like that. You kind of see some things going on. That's why I find amazing, talented people, is because they see things that I can't see. Right. Yeah. Like, so what can I learn from you? What are you seeing? I said, what did you end up getting? She says, well, I got this 22. So I figure, I'm like, wait, 22 deer hunting. Not deer hunting with a 22. Okay, buddy. So I'm like, hold it in. And so she kept talking through it and everything else. I'm like, I love where your head's at. We might have to tweak a couple things here, but for sure, you're kind of acting out on what you see as communism coming through. Yeah. And so I hear you. I hear it. It's coming. So I think the point of the matter that I need to emphasize to people is that you have to start thinking for yourself. If it doesn't sound right, it might not be right.
Right. Absolutely.
We need to get back to the American dream where people are saving up and owning their own houses. I'm telling you, we have more resources than you can ever imagine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I come back to seeing that image, and I see what you're talking about, communism and Marxism, but kind of the precursor is just socialism. Right. And there's a line of people, exactly what you're talking about, a line of people, and there's two doors, and one door's got all the people in front of it. I mean, the line's back around the corner.
Right, that image.
And the two signs above each door, the one that has nobody standing in it says, work hard, keep half.
Yeah.
And the other one says, don't work, get half. Like, people are always going to line up for something free. People are always going to line up for, hey, let the government take care of it. They don't know best. They don't. I think we were kind of joking about that earlier about, I don't want to hear financial advice from the government.
What would Ronald Reagan say? I'm here from the government. I'm here to help.
Those the 9 most terrifying words ever is,
yep.
I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
No.
My goodness. Yeah.
I think we need to step aside. I think government needs to step aside, and we need to allow capitalism to take back over. Because, I mean, if folks, we're not getting the exercise. I'm plain as day, one of the best examples, and my knees are about shot, but I'll keep running and keep
I like that. Take responsibility.
And that's why I stack lumber at the sawmill. I need that exercise.
Right.
And if I can get somebody some use out of it, all right, there we go.
And I think that's one of the other things I probably missed in that conversation we had with my daughter was, like, in this country, you can carve out whatever kind of life you want. If you are willing to go to the schools and do you can get whatever if you want to be upper middle class, if you want to be high, you could. That is the American dream. You can do it if you're happy with this. No college degree, lower middle. We're happy with that.
Absolutely.
Take responsibility. There are people who are dying to get into this country because of the system we live in. We don't need to overhaul it. Like, it works. Government, back off just a little bit.
There you go.
Let us do it.
Because I promise we can't support what I see coming through. I mean, we would see
at the rate it's going, right? You're saying it can't. It's amazing. It's not sustainable.
No, it's not sustainable, and that's why people are flocking through.
Why is it when I was a kid? Not that I paid too much attention to politics, and I didn't do any political science in college or anything, but I remember hearing two words. Balanced budget. I heard that a lot when I was a kid, and I didn't pay attention to any of that. I don't hear anybody say that ever. It's like they know it's so far out of reach.
That's right.
But yet, I keep thinking about all these checks we're writing to help this country and that country and all. It's like, if we save that for a couple of years, would that make a dent in the deficit?
I don't know. It's what do we want and what do we actually need to spend it on?
Yeah.
And we have to learn that again.
So if we implement that, because I told you that one saying, what's going on in the White House isn't near as important as what's going on in your house. If all of us as Midwestern average Joes got our houses in order, got our finances in order, started living within our means, don't you think that would have a ripple effect? If everyone started doing that more and more, teaching their kids that more and more, don't you think the ship would just kind of right itself?
Yes, sir, that is exactly the goal. Because when the kids get out of the house and your houses are paid for, that's what you're looking for.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what Dave Ramsey says. That's the fastest way. You mentioned, get an emergency fund going.
Pay off your debt.
Emergency fund.
Plant a garden.
Dave Ramsey said that's the fastest way. Work that debt. If you're in debt, work that debt snowball. Pay off the smallest one. Roll that payment right on the next. When you're out of debt, stay out of debt.
If you don't know what the debt snowball is, I promise you, I'll strike up that conversation any day of the week. You find me on the side of the road, we'll have that conversation.
That's it. And that's someone speaking from experience. You can tell for sure. Man. And he says, that is the fastest way to build wealth then. Get your house paid off. Like, you want to build wealth, you want to be rich, get that house paid off.
Yep.
And he tells people, you won't see the inside of a restaurant unless you're working in it. That's the kind of sacrifice it needs. You racked up that debt. Take responsibility. Get it paid off. Get your house paid off early. You will accumulate wealth because that's all people want, wealth. And and well, power, like the one dictator guy you were talking about in that country. I mean, that's power. Kill everyone who might oppose me or threaten me. My goodness.
I had a coworker on this debt topic. They had a goal. They had like $67,000 in debt or something like that. Some credit card debt, all sorts of good stuff. They said, you know what? We put ourselves a limit. We spent like $125, $175 a month on food. Okay. And they wouldn't even buy spices. And I'm like, actually, that'll be the part that actually keeps you cooking at home, is if you buy, a little bit of Italian seasoning or some Cajun or something. Yeah. You guys are doing great. You're doing fantastic. But that debt snowball, they were going after it.
Heck yeah.
It's hard. It is stinking hard, and they were doing it.
Because we haven't been brought up in a sacrificial system.
No.
You know what I mean? You got to get back to it.
But once you get out of it, I promise you, you're going to say, oh, my Lord, we've had 4 months of this, and it is fantastic.
Love it. Yeah. Yep, Sarah still knows. She remembers the $8,000 water treatment system we bought from Rainsoft when we bought a mobile home. Sure. If you're buying a mobile home, you can't afford an $8,000 water treatment system. But
that's a hard day.
But we learned.
Exactly. That's the thing. Every single one of us makes mistakes.
That's right.
And you got to talk to each other and figure out, okay, what should I have done here? And what's the right way to go forward?
That's right. Well, Keith, man, I got to thank you for coming on and sharing. This has been a fun afternoon.
Yeah, seriously.
It's pretty much exactly what I thought. I figured you're a knowledgeable guy. You got some experience, and you shared it. And I appreciate that. I'm sure it encouraged a lot of people, hopefully made them think a little bit deeper, maybe think for themselves a little bit. And that's one of my goals with this podcast, is to encourage people by letting them share their stories and opinions, but to maybe go a little bit deeper. And I think we did that on a few different topics, at least. So, to the audience, have you been looking around at things happening in our world today, like me and Keith have been doing, and kind of asking yourself, like, what is up with this? What's going on? I know I have. For me, lately, it was a couple of the performances during the opening ceremony of the Olympics. Their goal was to promote all aspects of French culture, which during the love and literature portion meant portraying these moments leading up to a threesome. That's kind of a stereotypical French thing. I believe they call it a ménage à trois. If I'm being, French, is that it? That's it.
C'est correct.
Okay.
C'est parfait.
There we go. And I get that. That's what the Olympic opening ceremony is. It highlights the culture of the hosting city or the hosting country, whatever it may be. But then they also kind of highlighted a moment promoting drag queens and all these sexually perverse things leading up to this weird apparent mocking of a reenactment of Da Vinci's Last Supper, which they say it wasn't, but it was something else. But just what is up with that? Why are we promoting that stuff on the world stage at the Olympics? What has that got to do with anything? And you guys know me. I don't hate anyone. I know it. Not everyone agrees with me. But trying to normalize or even celebrate sexual indecency on one of the world's biggest stages, it just ain't right to me. How did we get here? How did someone sit in a room somewhere and look at this and say, that's a good idea. Let's do that for the opening ceremony of the Olympics? That don't have anything to do with anything. Does anyone have an answer to that? Please tell me. I think the Bible still gives the best answers and explains why the world is the way it is. My favorite book of the Bible, Romans, in chapter 1, it explains exactly why we saw what we saw at the opening ceremony of the Olympics. It says, for even though they knew God, they didn't honor him or give him thanks, but they became futile in their reasonings and senseless hearts were darkened. Claiming to be wise, they became fools, and they exchanged the glory of the incorruptible God for an image in the form of corruptible mankind. Therefore, God gave them over to vile impurities and the lusts of their hearts, so their bodies would be dishonored, and they exchanged the truth of God for a lie, and they worshipped and served the creature rather than the Creator. For this reason, God gave them over to their degrading passions. Women exchanged natural relations for what is contrary to nature. Likewise, men, too, abandoned natural relations with women and burned towards one another. There's all kinds of stuff in here that I see. When we don't acknowledge God, we can get off into some really nasty stuff. When we're left man to their own devices, we can come up with some crazy stuff, guys. We really can. And I think that's what I'm seeing today. But the good news is that even though things are the way they are, God don't hate us. He loves all of us, even the ones that don't like him back. He loves us enough not to leave us the way we are if we come to him. But most people just don't want to hear that we're not okay the way we are. Jesus said, whoever loses his life will save it. We make terrible gods. Come on, people, admit it. He wants to be the Lord of our lives. All we got to do is admit that we're sinful, put our faith in Jesus and what he accomplished by sacrificing himself on the cross for our sin. You know, he paid that debt for us. He didn't have anything of his own. And unlike any other religion, our Savior didn't stay dead. He rose 3 days later. And he wants us to accept that and have a relationship with him. It ain't just about going to a church building on Sunday morning. It ain't about putting money in the plate or saying certain things. He wants a relationship with us. Okay? That is the good news. That is the gospel. That is what is up. If we truly accept that, things begin to change. Best decisions I ever made, and guys like Darryl Strawberry, Alice Cooper, Chuck Norris, even if you're a Hollywood person, Chris Pratt, Denzel Washington, Mark Wahlberg, C.S. Lewis. We were talking about he was a skeptic for most of his young adult life. He'd seen the worst the world had to offer. Lost his mom to cancer, held his best friend in war while he was dying. He ended up coming to Christ. If you want to know more or you got questions, you can reach out to me personally at whatisuppodcast@gmail.com, and I'll share more truth with you. You're welcome to join me at my church in FBC Dunkerton. I may preach from time to time. You never know. Sunday mornings, 9 a.m., Sunday school, worship, 10 a.m. Give it a shot. If things aren't good in your world, what do you got to lose? Try something different. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode with Keith Weiland. He's still running for Buchanan County Supervisor. I tell you, this guy's a good guy. He wants to do things responsibly, so I think he's deserving of our votes. What do you think? Send me an email. Let me know. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Subscribe, follow, like, share it with everyone you know the deal. Check out our Facebook and our Instagram. More videos there, giveaways, all kinds of stuff. Leave comments, send emails. Be sure to answer the poll question. I'm going to work up some kind of a poll question for this episode. I don't know what it's going to be, but I want you to participate in it. Let's grow this audience. Let's reach more people and see what God does with it. Yeah, that's what is up right there. Lord willing, I'll see you on the next one.